Great to see you here again. My name is Luc de Kuster, founder of the Kuster Academy, and in this new video I'm going to talk about the calculations of the surface of the z-score related to the third case. Here we're going to look at the surface for x smaller than the average or the mean value. In fact, the element that we are going to look at when we are looking at this graph, we see here for z smaller than 0 that we have the surface on the left, which is in fact the gray surface. And basically this is equivalent with this graph. Now be careful, minus z is a positive number because z, what we calculated on the left hand side, is a negative number. So minus z is the equivalent z value but larger than 0. And the surface larger than minus z, larger than this value, is equal to the other value. So basically we can use the original z value, the negative z value, or we can use the absolute value of the z value since we have a symmetric distribution. The table type 1. In the table type 1 we have in fact negative values. So when we have this table we can automatically calculate or read the surface. Consider that we have z equal to minus 2.04. So we have minus 2 and we are looking at the different numbers here. So we have first minus 2 and we find the 4. So we have minus 2.04. And we find that the surface here is 0.0250 or basically 2.5%. That's the surface that we have, the surface smaller or equal than z. And z is minus 2.04. So we have the 2.5% and we find those 2.5% here in the gray zone of the bell curve. Do the same thing with the second table. The second table, which is a little bit different, and here we have to use a trick. We have to find a way to do this. First of all, we have to find the negative z value and we take the absolute value of it and calculate the surface to the left between the absolute value of z and the average value, and 0 in this case. So basically when we look at the surface A, this is equal to the surface B. So once we know the surface B, we can subtract it from the 50% and we find in fact the surface C here and in the original graph, which are basically the same surfaces. What we have to do, like I said, we have the average, the standard deviation and the x value. We find the z value based on the calculation of 128 minus 145 divided by 8, which is approximately equal to minus 1.42. I limited to 2 decimals. It's not exactly correct, but you already know how to do the extrapolation. So when you would have more numbers here, more decimals, you could apply the method for the linear interpolation to find the correct surface. So here our table is complete. We have the z value and now we can calculate the surface. So we have the surface here, we have the same elements that we have here, and we can now calculate, or we want to find the surface for a z which is equal to the absolute value of 1.42. So we want to find the surface B to calculate the surface C. The next thing we do, we are going now to the table. We take the 1.4 row, we take the column with 2, and we find the intersection, which gives us 0.422, which is 42.22%, which corresponds with the z value of 1.42. We took the absolute value. From this we can calculate the surface which is equal to 50% minus 42.22%, which is equal to 7.78%, which gives us the surface C that we were looking for. The next thing to do is to use the standardized formula using the z-score. So basically, when we're going to use Excel, we can immediately calculate the surface because Excel gives us the surface to the left of x, always the cumulative approach. Now we look at the element here, so we look at the integrated formula. We have norm as dist, z and cumulative. For z, we take the z value with the sign, minus 1.42, and for cumulative, because we want to know the surface, the percentage, we have to put there true. So basically, when we have the formula norm as dist with parameters minus 1.42 and true, we find that the surface is equal to 7.78%. With differently, we can use the values x mu and the standard deviation. Then we have the norm dist distribution, and we just have to fill out the value of x, the mean, the standard deviation, and to find the surface, we have to select as cumulative. We have to give cumulative the parameter true. And we find norm dist, where we have x, which is 128, the mean is 145, the standard deviation is 8, and cumulative, we select true to have the surface, and we find here that the surface is equivalent with 7.78%. We have some more exercises here. You can look at the calculations. You can do it using the different tables or using the formulas in Excel or some other software. You find the results and you can see if you calculated the data in the correct way. That was all for this video. I thank you very much, and don't forget to click the subscribe button, click the bell button, and of course, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you and bye-bye.